Call this regularly scheduled council meeting Monday, July 15th, 2024 to order at 5 p.m. We would respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the unceded ancestral territory of the Silks Okanagan peoples and the Splatsin of the Secwepemc Nation. Looking at the adoption of the agenda, we do have one amendment, and that will be that the July 15th, 2024 agenda for a regular council meeting be adopted as amended by moving item 9.1 Armstrong Spalanchin Fire Department tender 1-3 replacement purchase to be reviewed prior to item 6.2 Armstrong Spalanchin Fire Services 2024-2028 financial plans. Provided there's no objections. All those in favor? Yes, sorry, Philippa.
May I please have a mover and a seconder for that motion?
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Weiner and seconded by Council Todd. Thank you. And that is carried unanimously. And looking for the adoption of the regular council meeting from June 24th, 2024, that the June 24th, 2024 minutes of the City of Armstrong regular council meeting be adopted. A mover, please. Councillor Drapala, seconder, Councillor Todd. All those in favor? And that will be carried unanimously. It gives me great privilege, before we move on, to have in our audience Mr. Rick Bronson. We'd like to take an opportunity to honor Rick, a dedicated member of our Public Works Department. He started with the City of Armstrong over 20 years ago and officially became a permanent full-time employee on July 26, 2024. His contributions started even earlier, as I understand, as a casual member of the department. I only know Rick in passing to wave, but I've heard many a nice thing, and so I want to read a couple of comments. Over the years, Rick has worn many hats, stepping in to help whenever and whatever needed. His willingness to lend a hand, combined with his experience, has made him a valuable asset to the City of Armstrong. Today, we proudly present Rick with a long service award for his 20 years of service to our city. This milestone is a testament to his hard work and the impact he has made on our community. As Rick embarks on a well-deserved retirement, yay, we want to express our gratitude for his years of service. We wish you all the best in your new chapter of your life. May your retirement be filled with joy, relaxation, and time spent with your family and friends. And of course, we hope you enjoy many, many hours riding on your Harley. Thank you, Rick, for everything. Congratulations on your retirement and your long service award. Would you like to come up? After saying goodbye to Rick, I think it's now time for departmental updates, and I will hand that over to Ms. Lowe.
Okay, and we will start with Good evening, Council. Let's begin with the bottom section, the communications. We've fired out a lot of updates these past few weeks, especially the Emergency Operations Center for the Extreme Heat, which we have relaunched again today. And that has the library open extended hours until 10 o'clock, the cooling center until Friday at 10, I believe they're closing. And with this all starting up, and we also recently had a fire close to the Peachland area, just wanted to send out a gentle reminder to please try to refrain from posting on social media regarding any sort of emergency action we may be taking. Let's really try and refer all of our residents to the proper channels so they know where to go, they know how to get the correct information, and they're receiving it in a timely manner. And that will also help with the panic. I know in other communities, they have had a few counselors discuss how they've packed ready to evacuate and there was not even an evacuation alert issued, but suddenly people were thinking that meant they had to evacuate, and it was confusion. So let's really just try and refer all of our residents and our visitors through the proper channels, and that would be a huge help for us and for me as your communications person. You have in front of you your program for the UBCM, those of you that are going. You do not need to circle things tonight, but that lays out your options. And if you can please have that copy back to me by the end of the week so Emily can register you. There are a few selections that you do need to make with regards to the different programming that they're putting on, different lunches. Some of them are obvious. For example, you would all attend the Silga lunch. And if you can let us know, there are also two others in there. One is for breakfast with BC Hydro, if you wish to attend that. And there's also BC Assessment, if you wanted to have a meet with them as well. Whether you want to confirm with his worship on where he would like to see you go as well, just so we can spread you all out and get as much as we can out of the convention. And that would be fantastic. So by end of day Friday, and then we can get you all signed up and take care of that. Also we received our first FOI request of the year. Done, processed, out the door. We are lucky that way. And records management manual has arrived. I was like a kid on Christmas, this big, huge binder and all the documentation that goes with it. So I've started renumbering things, and we'll start rearranging that, training all of our clerks on how we want to see things done so we can ensure that everything is done properly. And then I'll tackle the downstairs. And that is about it for us.
Do we often, or how frequent are FOI requests? I don't recall hearing of many since my time with the council here. So.
Honestly, it depends on the community. We are very, as far as administration is concerned, we're very lucky that we don't have a lot of requests. And we also try to be very open with what we're doing, and councils, you're all really good about being very transparent, which is a huge help as well.
Okay, thank you. We have Janine Felker for finance update.
Thank you. So from the last meeting, we all know our property taxes were due on July 2nd. I've provided a couple different stats with 2024 and 2023 as comparison. We did see a slight uptake in collection, which is nice, which reduces the penalty that was applied. And our pre-auth plan continues to be an attractive mechanism for people. So that's really good. One thing I thought interesting was the method of payment. So we're still very reliant on checks. So we see 57% of our payments were done through check. So that just goes to show how many people are, most of them are coming in. Some people do drop them off in the mailbox or mail them, but a lot of that traffic is still coming through the door. And we do have 15 properties still with delinquent taxes. So we have until October 7th, which is the tax sale this year. With the stat, it has bumped it into October. So now we really start working with those properties one-on-one to try to get them off that list and try to not go to tax sale. Also, since the last meeting, we've signed up for canoe procurement. That's a newer tool launched through Civic Info for the province, just to really streamline the procurement process for certain purchases that we can use. So we did have to post it on BC Bid that we're gonna be using this tool, and we have to post that every year just to make sure that we're transparent and we're abiding by all legislation. But we're gonna be doing a training on Wednesday with the Canoe staff about really how we can use this program the best to our ability. So it really should shorten down a lot of purchasing timelines and also some large discounts as well, because it's been procured at such a huge volume. So we'll be able to realize some savings through that. And then finally, our RFP for our audit services closed on June 14th, and today we just did our initial evaluation. We'd have 3 bids that came in, so at the next meeting, I will be able to let you guys know who we've chosen and what we're gonna go from there, so.
Thanks, Janine. Janine, I'm just curious about the 4.8% that haven't paid their taxes yet. But then where it says penalty applied, 4.8% resulted in $36,000 in penalties?
So it's, 35.9, so it's a little bit less, but it also, so it's full, so the percentage is based on the number of properties, not the
Not
value.
amount? Okay.
Yeah.
And that money goes to the government?
Nope, we keep the 10% penalty.
Sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for these stats. We don't have accounts receivable, and it's it's important, I think, to watch to see how these stats may change over time. And I really appreciate the time put into them. I noticed there's 26 tax deferments. I was just wondering if maybe you could explain a little bit about how that process works, who it applies to, and what it applies to the tax deferrals.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. So it's a provincially ran program. We don't have any say or any do in it. All we do is provide the information to the province. So the province allows you to defer your property taxes and apply it onto your title through 2 different categories. There are the ones for seniors and there's one for people with children. So there's a couple different income criteria that you also have to meet, and you have to own your home, have a certain percentage of ownership, like equity in your home, so then it would go onto your title. So then when you sell the property, then you repay the province back those amounts. Those amounts do occur interest on behalf of the province. So it is an option for some, but it's not just free money. They do pay monthly interest on those amounts that they've deferred.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Janine. Warren Smith for Community Services and Emergency Program updates.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Community Services, so we have 3 special event applications, one for the Twilight Market, the Rods and Rail Car Show, and then the Interior Exhibition. So staff are working with the organizers of those events. We have moved forward on a couple of them. So things are looking good in all of those 3 areas and that. So just a little bit of an update for council to consider. We originally entered into a level 1 heat warning back on July 4th and have since moved forward into a level 2 extreme heat response, which was for last week. And today we reactivated that extreme event that will hold over until at least Friday. And that's based on the predictions that we're getting from Environment Canada and the recommendations that we're getting from the Emergency Management and Climate Change Readiness Ministry. So we'll continue to work with our community partners and providing additional supports to our communities. A number of our community partners have stepped up this year and are providing additional services beyond what they normally do provide in any given day. And we've also partnered with the Okanagan Regional Library, with the Armstrong branch, and we're receiving funding to allow them to extend their hours. They have seen a significant increase in the amount of people that are coming into their facility and utilizing it till later in the evening, which is great to see. So we are filling a purpose. Staff have said that they are the individuals that are needing this type of support. So it's really good to see that benefit out there in the community and that people are utilizing it and they're getting the support and the need that is required during these type of events. The staff are working with our contractor and the RCMP to develop standard operation procedures for, the joking name is hot dogs, but for hot animals and vehicles. So had meetings last week with the RCMP on Friday, some good conversations. They understand the importance and need of having a structured response. So we're hoping within the next couple of weeks, we'll have a memorandum of understanding in place. That there'll be those standard practices that will be able to provide a thorough response and involve the agencies, which includes the RCMP and SPCA, when these type of incidents do occur. Thankfully, within our community, touch wood, we haven't had anything over the last couple of weeks. I think people are very educated on it now. But occasionally from time to time, it has happened within our community. So now we will have those procedures in place. In addition, the ESS program came out to a response last Sunday where there was a house fire within our community. We received some very good services from the Canadian Red Cross that stepped up. They brought 2 other volunteers out that provided support to the family that was affected by a very tragic fire. And just this past week, staff went out to Kamloops and participated in an Indigenous engagement opportunity where we had discussions with a large number of communities from the central Okanagan region and discussed looking at what priorities and what opportunities there are for additional engagement opportunities. The city did receive funding back in January that this will be put forward to, providing opportunities to our community, but also the region as a whole to support initiatives for engagement within emergency management. Thank you.
Just one question that wasn't in your report. Have you been monitoring the Make Water Works campaign, and how is that looking this year?
I don't know the exact numbers. We'd have to get online to take a look, but I know they have done some changes to the marketing that they're doing this year and have found that it to be effective. They've changed gears and are looking at saving water for fish and for firefighting, for example, and it's being met with positive results.
Thank you. I have Brad Ackerman for the Public Works updates.
Thank you. Quick update for Public Works for the last, I guess, 3 weeks since we had our previous council meeting. We have our June water consumption rates here for review. As you can see, our consumption is down from what it was last year, trending in the right direction. And we were 96% off Fortune Creek, 4% off PV Well, and 1% off the fire hall. We're overall happy with the way the plant has been running. Both Silver Star Lakes are currently at full pool and still overflowing, so that is a positive for this time of the year. I've got our provincial drought rating in there, and that plays in a little bit to our changes to our water use and conservation bylaw that's coming. As of last week, when this was wrote, the drought level is currently at level 1. I checked again today, and we are still sitting currently at level 1. We trigger a water restriction come drought level 3, so we have some adequate room there. Thomas Hayes spray irrigation reservoir is currently sitting at 58% of capacity. We're seeing a little bit more uptake here in the last couple of weeks from farmers with the spray irrigation as we get to the tail end of that last round of precipitation that we had. Our Okanagan sanitary trunk installation is well underway, as most of you have probably seen through town. We've just entered into phase 2 of the project. We've gone past that intersection at Fletcher, kind of a key intersection. We've reopened that lower section of Okanagan to local traffic, and now we're focusing from Fletcher to Rosedale. The project so far has gone quite smooth. Minor little challenges to deal with on site, but overall, the contractors are making good time. I anticipate probably about 3 more weeks of pipe installation and tying at Rosedale, and then we'll look at reinstating the road and getting life back to normal for the folks in Okanagan that have been extremely patient and they've been extremely supportive of the work with the crews out there this year. It's been an overall pleasure to work with them. So I will give them a big kudos, not only from myself, but the contractors out performing the work as well. Once we get closer to completion of the Okanagan sanitary project, we will shift over to a sanitary line replacement project over at the sewage treatment plant. And this is category 4, category 5 defects that are in the lines bordering the east and south perimeter of the lagoons. And notice of construction will be going out to the affected residents there. And that is expected to start on the week of July 22nd. And we will have that project wrapped up by the end of August. In conjunction with some of that sanitary work, we do have some intersection safety improvement projects that we'll be undertaking. The first one that will take place is at the intersection of Rosedale Avenue and Pleasant Valley Road. And we're scheduling that for the last half of this month. We just have a design that we've received, and we're just costing that out for implementation. This ties into some of the recommendations that stem out of our traffic safety study. We've had access to some grant funding to help make this achievable. So we're looking to implement that. Phase 1 will be that intersection. The goal of that is to realign that intersection to improve sight lines, bring the stop bars for the Rosedale Avenue crossings to an appropriate location, and improve pedestrian safety there. It will tighten that intersection up for some of the vehicle traffic. The treatments will be a combination of post delineators and armadillos, and they look very much like an armadillo. Picture that, but they are markings that go on the road as a bump feedback for vehicle traffic, just to help provide those barriers. And as we reinstate the intersection at Okanagan Street and Rosedale Avenue from the sanitary works, we will be realigning that intersection as well, moving the intersection stop bars forward, aligning the pedestrian crosswalks, improving sight lines, and implementing some of those recommendations that came out of the traffic safety plan. And that one is scheduled for mid-August, once we reinstate that intersection and get that completed and back open to the public. Another big project has been out for procurement. It's our cure in place pipelining. That closed a week ago, and we're just going through the review process. We're looking to award that project for July 22nd. We did receive 3 qualified bids from some reputable firms, so we're going through and scoring their proposals and looking at the best proponent to undertake that work. That will be a key importance for us moving forward. As you can see, phase 1 of the City Hall landscaping is nearing completion. We're just going through the final deficiencies tomorrow and getting those addressed with, and then we have our 1-year warranty period that comes with that. Phase 2 is still scheduled for 2025 consideration within the budget. That includes site furnishings and additional treatments, as well as some landscaping for the back of the building. Overall, very happy with the way the project has come forward. It's received positive feedback from the public. We get lots of people showing up early in the mornings to walk around and take a look at the plant material, and we see them in the evenings. So it is nice that it is engaging to the public, and we will continue to look at rolling out some of the educational components of the water-wise plant material and some of the unique features of the landscape as well. And that is kind of the highlights of the last month. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Brad. I just noticed that when you were talking about the sanitary line going in after Okanagan, you mentioned that when you're done Okanagan, they're packing up and going to the sanitary, to the lagoons area there?
Correct. Yeah.
It's very, very tight to a time that there are a lot of people are showing up to our town. Will the end date be affected if the first project's delayed?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they are aware of the implications of the IPE, and they will have that reinstated and accessible for that
Okay.
event.
Just the 26th is very, very close to the 28th.
Yeah, yeah, and that's allowing for the cleanup phase and moving stuff out. The area that the work is taking place is actually quite a bit a ways from where the IP utilizes. We will be putting a sanitary line replacement through the overflow upper parking lot. But that will be reinstated quickly. We don't have to worry about paving.
Yep.
Those type of things. So we are, the contractor has assured us that they can work with those.
Last thing, what kind of smells can we anticipate from this? Real question.
Smells will be negligible. The line will go in and we will do a bypass pump when we tie into the new manhole and the new line and engage that. So the major difference with this project will be is we do need to remove some vegetation along the south boundary of the lagoons, bordering the properties that are on Jackson. We do have our right of way back there for the sanitary line, and that will require vegetation removal in order to install the new line and make the repairs. So there will be some visual changes to the viewscapes for the folks that live on Jackson. So, yeah. So.
Thank you, Brad. And Lori Cordell with our planning updates.
Afternoon, council. Just a couple things. We're still working on the big outstanding projects that have been kind of ongoing. Now the zoning's checked off. We gotta get the next ones kind of underway. We have been notified that we're eligible to apply for the second round of the Housing Accelerator Fund. And the portal opened today, so I was having a look at it to see what will be involved in doing that. We will learn a bit more and we'll have to come back to council because anything we do in the Housing Accelerator Fund application would require a council resolution. So I anticipate bringing something back probably for the 15th so that we can be advance of the September 13th deadline, or even maybe the first meeting in September. I have a draft of the OCP sitting on my desk, but I'm working on it because I want the wording to reflect what I want the wording to say. So I think they've captured kind of the key concepts, but I'm just looking at the wording and putting some edits in. We'll be looking at bringing this to council in September and October to review. We thought we'd split it up because it's quite a lot of stuff, and then bring it back in November to start the formal legislative adoption process. We're getting a lot of inquiries right now that the zoning's been adopted, by people who want to do infill developments. They want to convert their garage, they want to add a suite, they want to do all the things. So that's taking up quite a lot of time right now, which was expected, but it's definitely been exciting. So we're going to look at some processes on managing some of the inquiries and how do we make sure people get the information they need regarding their servicing and getting ready so they have a realistic idea of what they're getting into. And I have a link to the building permit monthly report there. Nothing too exciting happening in there. So, kind of on par, I would say.
Question?
Okay, so that's it. Thank you, Lori. And that's the departmental updates. Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe. Moving on to the presentation reports. Up first, I believe, is Janine regarding community futures.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm here just presenting a letter on behalf of the RDNO and Community Futures in regards for their need of funding for the Rural Community Immigration Program. So Community Futures has successfully managed the Rural and Northern Immigration Project for the past 3 years, and they're seeking to obtain funding for the next intake of the project. This time, though, the project isn't receiving funding from the provincial government. So the Community Futures is looking for the municipal governments in the RDNO to fund their portion. So included in my report was the presentation that Community Futures did at the RDNO board level. Several skilled workers have been hired by businesses within our jurisdiction. And if the program continues, the business community will continue to benefit. So far, we've heard from the city of Vernon, they've supported their portion. Also, Coldstream and the electoral areas have also supported it since this report. Also, just to note that the grant application also has to be approved. So not only do all RDNO jurisdictions have to approve this amount, the grant also has to be approved at the federal government level. And they, if you read it, was only a handful throughout all of Canada. So they might not be chosen, but we can hope, since they've done it so well in the past 3 years. For us, our request is $3,950. The recommendation is that the funds come from one of our operating reserves that is funded by the surplus from the development department. So it's kind of businesses paying for business or economic opportunities. And then 2025 and 2026, we'll just incorporate that into our budget. So the recommendation is quite wordy. If you want me to read it, or if you can read it on the screen, I can do that, but I can read it out loud if council would prefer me to. Okay, for sure. So that council direct administration to provide a letter of support to Community Futures North Okanagan for participation in the new rural community immigration pilot application, which replaces the rural northern immigration pilot. And further, that council supports allocating $3,950 from the Building Inspection Operating Reserve for the 2024 contribution and incorporating $3,950 for 2025 and 2026 into the 2025 to 2029 financial plan. And further, that the council's support of the participation in the new rural community immigration pilot program is subject to the approval of all other member municipalities of the regional district of the North Okanagan.
Thank you. You're going to need a glass of water after that one. Let's first have somebody move the motion. Councillor Weiner, sorry, and second by Councillor Fowler. Open the floor up for any discussion. Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? And this will be carried unanimously. Thank you, Janine. And now our change up, we're going to move to section 9.1 at this point in time. And Janine, are you presenting this as well?
I can. I worked with Ian on this, so if there are questions, I can answer them. Or if you want me to give a little rundown, I can
Just
do
a
that. Or if the
quick briefing
commission
would be
members would
great.
like
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah, for sure. So this is in regards to the replacement of tender 1-3, which was damaged in a vehicle accident earlier this year. So the recommendation is that, subject to the concurrence of the Township of Spa-Machine, that the 2000 IMPG single axle tender be purchased for $549,800, and that the city of Armstrong pays 40% of the purchase amount, equaling to $219,920, to be allocated from the Fire Protection Equipment Reserve. I did include in the memo a couple things to note: that because the replacement was considered necessary and urgent in nature, we were able to eliminate the formal procurement process, and we posted a notice of intent on BC Bid, and we received no objections. Also, the city has sufficient reserve balance to fund this purchase at this time.
Thank you very much. Do we have a mover for that motion? And Councillor Valstar, second by Councillor Michi. Thank you very much. Was there any discussion? It's just moving along with last week, sorry, the previous meeting where we did ask them to go out and look for a tender. They found something for us, and this is the funding portion of this thing. Saying that, all those in favor? And this too will carry unanimously. Thank you very much. And again.
That's why we had to shuffle things a little bit around, because now we're going to talk about the Armstrong Spa-Machine Fire Services Commission 2024 to 2028 financial plan. So the commission did have an approved budget on November 29th, 2023 at the commission level. The budget was approved by the city of Armstrong, but it was not approved by the Township of Spa-Machine. In order to move forward, a revised financial plan is being presented today. So I'll just go over the changes from the one that was approved on November 29th. The first one under operations is a grant for SCBA bottles. We were successful in obtaining a grant to fund these purchases. So for 2024, we've increased revenue by the grant amount. We also had to increase equipment expense by 20,000, but this overall reduced the subsidy amount. And further, because we were allowed to replace so many SCBA bottles under this grant, we were also able to reduce the purchase next year in 2025. So the budget reflects that. Next, we have the revised assessments. So every year under section 6.7 of the agreement, the operating contribution percentages have to be revised based on the net improvement assessments for each municipality. So this year's change sees a shift of 1.3% towards the Township of Squamish. Administrative support. So the 2-day-a-week clerical position that was included in the original budget has been removed. This $16,000 for 2024 has been removed, and also in the future years, it's been removed as well. So the operating subsidy reduced. One thing for IT support, with the departure of Chief Cummings, the fire department no longer has any IT support or capacity. The city our IT provider is Sea to Sky Network Solutions. So I asked them to do an assessment and a costing for us to ensure that the IT infrastructure is protected and the support can be provided when needed. So for the monthly service, it's $785 per month. And in addition, though, the IT infrastructure at the fire hall was identified to be out of date and in need of replacement. So some of the computer replacements can be deferred to the next year, but it's been recommended that a variety of the network be replaced along with the chief's computer as soon as possible. So the purchase and installation of this is $15,075. So overall, the $19,000 has been added to administration under 2024. And the deferred items and the ongoing monthly costs, I'll compute those next year and when I do the budget in the fall. So I just did a quick little summary. So overall, the operating subsidy was $987,259. So with all the changes, it drops a little bit to $980,259. So that's positive. For capital, I have included the tender 1-3 replacement in there as well for the budget. So for the city's perspective, there's no implications really of all of these changes where our budget includes the original amount. So the small surplus that's been generated from these changes will direct that to our fire replacement reserve. So the recommendation is that the revised 2024 to 2028 financial plan for the Armstrong Squamish Fire Services Commission be approved and forwarded to the Township of Squamish for approval.
Thank you, Janine. Moved by Councillor Weiner, seconded by Councillor Valstar. Thank you very much. Is there any question? Councillor Weiner.
Maybe just more of a comment. Actually, the question is the 15,075 for the IT infrastructure, was that an estimate or was that an actual?
That's a quote.
So that seems really, really high for a switch 2 access points in one laptop. Like I've seen the laptops that are there and we've replaced those where I worked 8 years ago. So I understand the need for replace them, but if what I'm reading is the total of what that is, to me, that seems like a really high number, is my comment. So.
Councillor Nietzsche.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to comment, well, thanks to Janine. I know this is budget's been a challenge for staff as we're trying to navigate our way through the process. I understand that, this revised budget hasn't been reviewed by the Fire Commission because we haven't had a meeting of the Fire Commission. I'm just wondering if council would be agreeable to a minor amendment to the resolution that is more out of courtesy and it actually is in line with the previous resolution that we just adopted. And Your Worship, if I could, I would just propose an amendment to the motion that just says, subject to the concurrence of the Township of Squamish, the revised 2024-2028 financial plan for the Armstrong Squamish Fire Services Commission be approved, and that the 2024-28 financial plan for the Armstrong Squamish Fire Services Commission be forwarded to the Township of Squamish for approval. So that would be my proposed amendment.
Okay, well, Councillor Todd, you support that? Councillor Valstar. Any comments?
Just speaking to the amendment, your worship, it's just simply a courtesy in the fact that we haven't had the chance to meet face to face with the commission, and just adds that level of courtesy. I think the intent is still that we're going to pass the resolution on our part. Have no issues at all with the budget that's proposed. I think it's just a pure courtesy issue. Thank you.
Any objection to the changing of the motion? Do we need to vote on the changing of the motion? Yes? Okay, so we've got our two motions. All those in favor to the rewording of the motion? Carried unanimously. And then to vote on the motion, if there's no further question, all those in favor? We will add that term. Thank you, Councilor Nietzsche. And next, Ms. Cordell, I believe.
DP for 3090 Smith Drive. This is the property right beside Starbucks. It was the fireplace place for a while, and I think a long time ago it was a car dealership. Coincidentally, this is an application to open an automotive sales business on the site. They're looking at renovating and expanding the existing building. This meets the current zoning, but requires a commercial development permit through the official community plan. I think everybody knows where we're talking about. This just shows the zoning, so you can see it's C2 zone, which this is a permitted use. This is their proposed site plan. So you can see the addition to the existing building. You can see landscape areas, parking. Their parking far exceeds the bylaw requirements because of course it's a car dealership, so they require extra spots for the cars. There's some considerations with the BC Hydro right-of-way that I have forwarded on to the applicant so they're aware of. The official community plan sets out objectives for development in these commercial areas. Currently, I was gonna move that, not make it bigger. Currently, our official community plan only has one commercial development permit area, so it doesn't separate downtown from the rest of the commercial areas, and has guidance around having it heritage style buildings and historic style buildings, which isn't really what we've actually been doing along the Smith Drive corridor. And I think in the new OCP, we're proposing to split that actually into two. So there's like the historic area and the kind of commercial, more modern commercial area. So I haven't focused a lot on the heritage stuff in the development permit. I've more focused on the other pieces of the development permit area for this one. So the parts that I think are important here is that the materials reflect things that are used in other buildings. So I think if you look in the area, you'll find similar materials. The landscaping should kind of flow in that area. I think that would be a little bit trickier because the landscaping along Smith is a bit disparate, I would say. It's every property is a little bit different. So maybe it flows in that way. It's unique. Talking about bringing in xeriscaping and non-nuisance trees, and then having refuse and recycling screened. And then the OCP also talks to buildings visible from the highway, making sure that Armstrong looks nice from the highway when people are driving by. So you can see the building elevations that they have provided. It's a beautiful upgrade, I think, to that building. It aligns, I think, with the Armstrong Land Corporation building across. They kind of have similar timber. I think it's going to be a big improvement on that site. I would say through the review of the application, we feel like this generally meets the intent of the guidelines. There are some servicing upgrades required as identified by our operations manager. BC Hydro has provided those right-of-way considerations, and the applicant has moved their sign to address some of those concerns, but they will still be required to have a permit from BC Hydro before any work happens in that right-of-way. They have adjusted their plans to make sure they meet the site coverage, and they have met the landscaping requirements. They will need a sign permit when they go to build, but they'll also need a building permit for that sign. And the one thing that isn't shown on their plan, which we'll work with them to make sure they add, is the 2 bicycle parking spots. So our recommendation today is that development permit number 2404 DP for the development of a used car sales dealership at 3090 Smith Drive. PID number 0022633025, legally described as Lot 18, Plan KP 28848, Section 5, Township 35, Kamloops Division of Yale Land District, except Plan KP 67942, as shown in the application package, and the amended site plan be approved subject to the following conditions. Just that the servicing upgrades be completed to the satisfaction of the city engineer and the manager of operations.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. Moved by Councillor Fowler, second by Councillor Drappa. Let's get you in there today. And questions, please.
So this isn't really a question about, well, it is, it's in reference to the application, but there had been discussion with BC Hydro about doing something with that right of way and going underground. Have we heard anything about that, or is it something we need to be talking to them about, or?
I haven't heard anything recently regarding that, and I don't think, Brad, have you? No, we haven't had any recent updates on that.
Thanks.
And they're still, I mean, this was a recent referral and they reconfirmed all the requirements for the right of way.
I'm just curious about the bike parking spaces.
Mhm.
Why is that a requirement of this?
It's just a bylaw requirement that a commercial building put in bike parking, and it's meant, in this case, it would probably be primarily meant for their staff, if they have staff that are biking onto site. The zoning bylaw has a requirement for a certain number of bike parking stalls per floor space of every commercial building.
Okay, thank you for that. I don't see a lot of people riding bicycles to buy cars, but I just thought I'd ask. Anyways, that being said, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And this will be carried. Thank you, Lori. All right, under section 771, the water use conservation bylaw number 1921, 2024. We have already given this first, second, and third reading. At this point in time, I would like to make a motion that the bylaw 1926-24 be adopted. Mover, Councillor Fowler, seconded Councillor Todd. All those in favor? This will be carried. And along with that, under the municipal ticket information amendment bylaw 1927-2024, also be adopted this time. May I have a mover, Councillor Todd, seconded Councillor Drapla. Any questions? Then we'll call the vote. All those in favor? This will be carried. Thank you. Under correspondence, we did receive something from the District of the North Okanagan regarding Bill 44 and the unattended consequences. Councillor Feller, did you have anything you'd like to comment on this?
Yeah, Mike, thank you. I think it's a really good letter and explains it really well, and some of the things that maybe don't come straight to mind when you talk about being able to just have lots of infill and lots of homes on one piece of property. So no, I think that Rob's done a really good job explaining this, and actually to the benefit of everybody at Regional District. I mean, you think of water in your sewer now because we've talked about it many, many times, but there's a few other things in here that maybe didn't come first to mind, like parking and.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. And with that note, I'd like to have a movement that staff provide feedback on the implementation of Bill 44, emphasizing the unintended consequences for the city of Armstrong is now facing to the Regional District of North Okanagan for inclusion in a collective response to send to the Ministry of Housing. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Fowler, second for Councillor Wayner. Any questions to that?
No, just
Councillor-
one other comment. I think one of the things that is kind of a surprise that maybe residents aren't aware of is that we no longer have to have public hearings. So it's really taken the residents' opinions straight out of this whole opportunity to change their neighborhoods in a flash. So that's not on us. That's on the province. We're not allowed to have them. So that's a big change.
And I do believe there's also financial consequences as a result of those decisions as we move forward. So I think we're all in supporting of staff monitoring this and doing any support possible. There's no further comments at this point in time. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Thank you, Councilor Nietzsche, and that'll be carried unanimously. Thank you. And I think that's it, unless I'm missing something. At this point in time, I'd like to move to an in-camera meeting. That council move to in-camera pursuant to the Community Charter Section 90, subsection 1, under C, Labor Relations or Other Employee Relations, subsection I, the receipt of advice that is necessary to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and subsection K, negotiations or related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are in the preliminary stages and that, in the view of council, could be reasonably expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. May I have a mover, please? Councillor Todd, thank you. Second, Councillor Drapala. There's no question. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That will be carried, and we will call their regular council meeting recess. Thank you.